We have a loaded Week 8 slate, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, Louisville, Miami, Notre Dame, USC, Alabama, Tennessee. The third Saturday of October, we're already here, and the season's just flying by. And then Ole Miss and Georgia, crucial games this weekend. And we have a very special guest to talk all those games with, Taylor Korn. We're going to be, just honest with her about, Louisville, Miami. You may get a little bit of an honest take from her on it. So, guys, we're pumped. We're just fired up for Week 8. Welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris. And whether you're watching on YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like the episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. Just share around with others. Follow on there as well. X on Instagram is at pigskin_frenzy, and the website www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Very special guest with us today for Week 8. She was our Week 8 guest picker. She is she's kind of a jack of all trades, it seems like, formerly from the next round. She's a sports media personality. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Taylor Korn. Golf clap.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to be here.
I try to get those intros kind of pumped up a little bit. So you're good. How are you? You feeling good? I know basketball season's around the corner as well for you. So how are you feeling? You feeling kind of pumped?
I am. I'm excited. I've spent the past 2 days in Birmingham, which is very convenient for me because typically we're having to travel for football media days, but basketball makes it easy on the Birmingham people. So I have spent the past 2 days at the Grand Bohemian talking SEC basketball, which I feel like I just got back from the Final Four.
Yeah.
Time is flying. I don't know how the football season's halfway over already, but I'm excited. This is the overlap season. So I'm going to Auburn is playing an exhibition game tonight. So that's where I'll be headed later on. Alabama has an exhibition game this week. So there's a lot going on, but that's the beauty of the industry.
Right. And you seem fired up and you seem passionate about what you do. Before we get into that, who is Taylor Korn outside of sports media? What does she do? Who is Taylor Korn when she's not covering basketball or football or any other sport?
I like to spend a lot of time with my friends. I'm a red wine girl.
Okay.
I love a glass of red wine. I hang out. I spend a lot of time with my friends because in season, I'm gone every weekend. I'm traveling. So I take advantage of either a weekend that I am in Birmingham and can spend with my friends, or the off season when I have more free time. I have a niece that was born about 4 months ago. So every chance I get, I'm over there hanging out with her. The summer, I love the lake. I love the beach. I love being outside, but basically just spending a lot of time with friends and family and then resting, because once football season starts, really once SEC Media Day starts, it is pedal to the metal, right, and there's not much time to rest.
Same with me, especially with college football. I'm so locked in doing this show and covering all these games. So it's fun being an uncle too. So I'm with you because I have nieces and nephews as well. So it's fun being an uncle or an aunt. That's unique. That's really awesome. That's a good answer because a lot of people don't really mention that, right? So
yeah, you can spoil them, give them whatever sugar they want. I have a couple nephews that are a little bit older, so you go pick them up. You spoil them, and then you drop them back. You can still drop them back off at home. You don't have to deal with, the sugar rush when that comes on. So it's the best of both worlds.
And then your brother and or sister's like, okay, Joel,
really?
Taylor, what did you do? You know what I mean? And then it's like, I'm sorry, they just wanted ice cream or wanted candy or chocolate or whatever. Yeah. So it's like,
how can you say no?
Exactly. How can you say no? That's the classic answer. College football is ramping up. And we're going to talk about Week 8 here in a little bit. But what made you fall in love with college football, just the sport in general?
I can't point to a moment in time, but I was always with my dad and my brother growing up. So sports have always been a big part of my life. My mom and my sister were more the cheerleading side of things, which I never got into personally. And that's just what I grew up doing. I'm from Michigan initially, so my dad's a Michigan fan. My mom's a Michigan State fan, but they're football people too. So my childhood, a Saturday, you sit on the couch and you watch college football. Right. And that's all I've known. And then once I started nearing the time when I figured out what I was really going to have to do with my life, I realized, wait, I might be able to make a career out of this. I didn't realize how much opportunity there was within the industry. And once I started exploring, I was like, okay, it's something that I like to do. It doesn't feel like work. And it's something that I would be paying attention to whether I'm doing it for work or not. So that was my goal when I graduated was I don't want to wake up and be miserable every day. I don't want to wake up and dread going to work. And I don't want to sit behind, a desk from 9 to 5 and stare at a computer all day. So I am very grateful that this is where I've landed, but it's just been something that's been a part of my life for really as long as I can remember.
And you can just travel and just love doing it. Travel, go all these different cities and do what you love. So it's like the best job in the world for you,
It
honestly.
is. It is.
So what landed, because you went to Auburn, you're an Auburn alum. What made you go from all the way from Michigan down south to Auburn? Because I'm from Mississippi, so which is kind of weird because I'm in central Illinois now. So it's kind of like me and you kind of swapped a little bit. You went down south, I went up north. But what made you go to Auburn, and what decided, like, okay, I'm going to go all the way from Michigan all the way down to south to go to the University of Auburn?
So we moved when I was 2, I think. I don't remember it. So I frequent trips back up north. I prefer not to go in the winter because I like the heat. But I don't remember living there. So my secondary team, I would say, is Michigan. I'm not, a Michigan fanatic by any stretch of the imagination, but that's what I was most familiar with as a child. And I think this is what it is. I don't know. But growing up, the majority of my friends in elementary school and middle school were all Alabama fans. And I don't know if I just wanted to be different, but I remember probably my 6-year-old Christmas, 7-year-old Christmas, like all I wanted was an Auburn football jersey. That is all I wanted for Christmas. And so I didn't really have anyone that made me become an Auburn fan, or I want to be an Auburn fan because of, X, Y, or Z, because my parents, Michigan State. But I just picked Auburn. That was going to be my team when I was little. And then now it's caused me some pain. It's caused me a lot of pain and a lot of heartbreak, especially when I was there. The past, 5-6 years have been tough. But so that was my team growing up, and that's the only school that I applied to when I was graduating high school. So I just kind of was sitting there with my fingers crossed. I hope I get in, because if not, I don't have a backup plan. So my sister was there. I have an older sister. She ended up going. So I was able to spend 1 year there with her, which was so fun. And then that's where I landed. Praise the Lord that I got accepted, and I loved it. I made some of my best friends in the world there that I still see all the time now, talk to every day. And it was a great experience, aside from I got the 2019 Final Four while I was there. But success on the football field, didn't see much of it.
Well, he said 2019, right?
Yep.
What about the Iron Bowl in 2019, though? Didn't you go to that game?
But I did. But the thing is that's like, I'm thinking season-long success.
Okay, yeah. Right.
We had some fun wins. I was at the LSU. I think it was, I can't remember what year it was, but it was a late comeback at LSU. It was an LSU night game, and a bunch of us made the trip because, he doesn't want to go to Baton Rouge.
Right.
And we just, we're like, let's make a trip out of this. Let's make a weekend out of it. So there were good individual games, but we didn't have any super successful football season as a whole, which has been a trend as of recent.
So from the look on your face, you seem like you're very opinionated on the matter of what's happening with Auburn. We don't, unless you want to discuss it, that's up to you. I don't know if you can or not, but if you're talking about individual success, are you talking about the Brian Harsin, Bo Nix type of game where they won in Baton Rouge late at night? That's what you're talking about?
Yep.
That was in 2021, I believe. I think.
It was, yeah. Yes. I think you're right.
That was Ed Orgeron's last year. See, now we're just talking, ladies and gentlemen, about Auburn. And let's talk about you getting into sports media, though. It seems like it's your passion. If this is a better word to use, what led you to being like, okay, I want to do this full time? Like, what was the passion behind it? Like, what led you, like, tugged on your heartstrings? I have to do this full time.
So, like I mentioned earlier, I never really knew because when you're sitting on your couch watching, you think, okay, there's the players and the coaches, and then there's the medical staff, but you don't unless you really start looking into it or you know people that work in the industry. I at least wasn't thinking about everything that goes on behind the scenes, coverage wise. And I started becoming more familiar with all of the other avenues. And so I love now, since I've been within the industry, I love the storytelling aspect of it. And that's something that I've always been drawn to as an audience member watching games. And now that this has become my career, but it's actually a funny story. So none of my roommates care they're not going to get beat up after a loss. They're still wanting to go out to the bar. I'm like, why are y'all not pissed off? Why aren't y'all angry? Why aren't y'all upset about this? Like, my weekend is ruined. My whole entire weekend's ruined. And they're not super interested, which is fine. But one of my roommates' uncle is actually who hired me out of college. And she randomly one day got a phone call from him asking, do you have any friends that like sports, know how to facilitate social media, and you think would want to do that after I'll graduate? Because I was not going on LinkedIn applying for every job out there. I told my parents, I said, look, I'm waiting to submit an application until I find something that I want to do. I'm not just going to get a job to get a job. So we were probably a month. I was on the way to the first round of the NCAA tournament, and my roommate called me and was like, I found you a job. I have you a job. I'm like, okay, what does this mean? And she said, my uncle just called me. This is what he does. You're going to love it. So I ended up getting on the phone with him. We talked over a couple weeks, probably. I drove up to Birmingham, and it was awesome because that's where I'm from. That's where my family is. And it ended up working out. And I was there for 3.5 years. I learned a ton. I got to experience so many cool things. And I hope that this is what I do forever. Because like I said, it's the storytelling aspect of things to me. I think that's what kind of builds the emotional connection between fan and fandom, really. When you hear stories about players or coaches overcoming adversity or whatever it might be, it's the stories within college athletics as a whole are fascinating to me. So that's kind of what made me interested in it, but that's also what I've learned. I love reading about it. I love talking about it, and I'm having a blast.
Before we talk about college football in week 8, do you have a favorite event or like game that you've covered so far throughout your sports media career?
I would say both. So I've been to 2 Final Fours. I was there covering Alabama, not this past season, but the season before in Phoenix. And then I was there with Auburn this past year. And what I love about postseason basketball as a whole, whether it be conference tournament or the NCAA tournament, is because the team is so much smaller than a football team, you are able to get to know the personalities of the players a lot more because, there's only 15 guys that they might be able to make available to the media, when on a football team, you might talk to the same guy a couple times if it's a quarterback or a star receiver or a star running back, but there's so many people on the team. So when the SEC tournament rolls around in this situation, or the NCAA tournament, and you start going into the locker room after the game, and it's just kind of like, you can talk to whoever you want to talk to. And I think for both Auburn and Alabama, because, the making it or advancing from the Elite Eight to the Sweet 16 is like a gateway. You win your region. That's a celebration within itself. And seeing the joy, I think being in Elite Eight locker rooms after wins is probably, you're in a room filled with people that couldn't be happier and couldn't be more excited. And getting to hear what they have to say about it, hear how they feel about it, and then also just experience the raw emotion. I think that that's the coolest thing ever, because that's everyone's dream. You know, we want to make it to the Final Four. Obviously, you want to win a national championship, but like I said, that's like a gateway. And I can't remember, there was a coach, and I keep talking about basketball. Basketball's on my mind right now, but I think
No,
that
you're
that's
good.
that's probably that's probably it, is getting to see and learn the personalities of these players, and then you're immersed in the excitement after an Elite Eight win. So I hope I get to go back this year, but that's that's a big ask. That's a big ask. So I think, but really any locker room or speaking to any players after big wins like that, I think more so than a game, it's it's just seeing the emotion of the players, seeing the excitement is, I think, one of my favorite things that I've experienced.
What's so cool is that you're chasing your dream, though. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
just about it, because you love doing this, and you seem like you're very passionate about it. And it feels like it's like the Lord's calling you to keep on just being in sports media. So I think it's pretty cool. It's unique to hear different perspectives and stories of, oh, this is my favorite event that I've covered, or so it's unique. So I'm glad that you enjoy doing that. And then, like I said sports media. You can mention basketball. I mean, it's not like I'm going to sit here and say, oh, college football, even if this is a college football show.
I mean, my thing is I have had my brain. Well, my brain has been switching back and forth, but my brain today and yesterday specifically has been on basketball. And I'm also, not to go back to my Auburn depression, but it's like, okay, I have something, I have something exciting to look forward to. Hopefully they can win an exhibition game after 3 weeks of disappointment. I'll put it that way.
Do you, are you, I don't know how to word this. Do you want to talk about Auburn football, or
We can, we can.
like, you have your honest thoughts on it? How do you feel about the season of Auburn football? I know we got to go into week 8 and talk about the ranking reactions, and predict the games, but talk about Auburn football as a whole this season. How are you feeling? Because you keep saying Auburn depression. I feel
Yeah.
like there's some sort of way about it right now. I mean, in Auburn, but don't talk about the refs, because, okay, I'm calming myself
Yeah.
down, because that got me upset. I don't know if you saw any previous episodes with me in it about the refs, but talk about Auburn this season so far. They almost competed, and they were competing against Georgia. So talk about just overall Auburn this year.
You start out on the highest of highs. You go on the road at Baylor. You have a new quarterback. You have, the wide receiver room of all wide receiver rooms. Auburn typically has a good defense. The secondary is being compared, is what's the best position group on this roster? Is it the receivers? Is it the secondary? So there's all this excitement and hope throughout the offseason. It's, Jackson Arnold wasn't in a good situation at Oklahoma. He had 3 different offensive coordinators. The whole offensive line was hurt. All of his wide receivers were hurt. He was in a bad position, and he needs a fresh start, right? So what could go wrong? What could go wrong? And you get you win week 1, you beat Baylor on the road. So that's okay. You're playing a Power 4 opponent. This is your quarterback's first game with this team. You were worried about the run game because Jarquez Hunter's gone. That showed promise. And then you have 2, lesser opponents in Ball State and South Alabama. And then you go to Oklahoma, which the storylines around that, because of Jackson, are, one thing in itself. And then the heartbreak of the fumble recovery that we thought was a touchdown to start the game was kind of, where your heart starts getting ripped out. But I think all in all, the most concerning thing to me is you're not seeing, in my opinion, you're not seeing different issues arise. I feel like throughout the past 3 weeks, you're seeing similar problems offensively. The defense has been, DJ Durkin is doing an incredible job, and you really can't complain much about the defense. But offensively, you're seeing some reoccurring issues, and that's concerning. That's very concerning, because what's happening, or what's preventing you from being able to fix some of these problems that we keep seeing. And then the mental aspect of it is after the fumble that some believe was a touchdown going in to the half of the Georgia game, it seems like, the team just kind of hung their heads offensively and never got, they were still leading at half. So it's not like now they're trailing and they're having to fight back. Would it have been nice to go into halftime 17-0? Yes. But overcoming adversity, you can't depend on the refs to make the right call to win a game. You can't. Has the officiating been horrendous? Yes. But that can't be an excuse for why you lose in these situations, because you've still had the ball in your hands with a chance to take a lead or a chance to win a game. Your defense is giving you every opportunity. So there's been a lot of talk about Hugh Freeze is the play. He's calling offensive plays.
Yeah.
Is he spread too thin with, his head coaching duties and then also trying to call plays? Is that a problem? Is there miscommunication because he also has all these other responsibilities that he's taking care of during the week? And he's not, the offensive coordinator or the quarterback coach. That is all of their time and all of their energy and brain power is dedicated to the offensive side of the ball. So, there's so much speculation. And then obviously Damari Austin's departure from the team is, it's just kick you while you're down. But the mental aspect of it is what was most jarring to me after the Georgia game. And in my opinion, that starts from the top. Yeah. That starts with the head coach. And a lot of times for all of the home games, I'm there. So I'm not watching a broadcast, I'm watching in person. But from the games I've watched in person, a lot of times what I've noticed is Hugh Freeze's body language on the sidelines sometimes seems like the frustration of officiating or a call not going your way, getting a bad break. It seems like you can see it on him sometimes. And that's going to have a trickle down effect to your players. So the situation's not great. And they have a great opportunity with Missouri coming to town this weekend to try and get things back on the right track. But right now, you just can't trust your offense. I think that I would trust the defense with my life. They've shown up time and time again. But the offense hasn't shown that they can put a full 60 minutes together. So it's not a great situation, and talent isn't the problem, in my opinion. This roster is extremely talented. There's a disconnect somewhere. There might be disconnects in a number of different places, but it's not a talent issue. It's not a great situation, and I don't know if the game has passed Hugh Freeze. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I would be very interested. And I was floored that Auburn opened as a favorite. It has since changed. I think Missouri's favored by 1.5 points maybe.
Yeah.
But that was surprising to me. If Auburn ends up losing this game, I'm going to be interested to see what happens, because I think that the patience, the fan base isn't going to make a decision, but there's no patience left. And I don't think that the fan base believes that, which, valid. You haven't been given much reason to believe that things will change because, after the Oklahoma game, you didn't see change in the Texas A&M game, and then you're seeing the same problems again. So I think the faith in being able to get things turned around in year 3, when we're still seeing some of these same issues, is not there. And the way that you're losing games is just, it's bad. It's bad. And I feel bad for these players. I feel so bad for these players. So we'll see what happens on Saturday. I'm gonna somehow convince myself by kickoff at 6:45 when I'm, a couple hours before, and I'm walking into Jordan-Hare Stadium. I will have myself fully convinced that Auburn will win that football game.
You look hopeful, optimistic, but it's also like, okay, I'm being kind of real here. So I admire that. A lot of people are just like, oh, there's no hope. I'm kind of depressed about it. But you're seeming very optimistic, which is good. Mizzou's a tough opponent. I
Right.
mean, it's going to be very tough, but we'll see what happens on Saturday. Before we get to our games, I usually do AP ranking reactions. You can always have a little bit of a last minute turnaround. So we did a last minute turnaround. Taylor, we're going to ask you your top 5 SEC teams, like a power ranking. Who are the top 5 best teams in the SEC in your eyes right now?
Ole Miss has had an incredible season. I will say that. And Trinidad Chambliss, hello. Well, welcome to the SEC. And I mean, what more could Lane Kiffin ask for? Your starting quarterback gets hurt, and then a star is born. So I would have. I'm giving you my top 5 kind of out of order because
You're good.
I don't have them listed 1 through 5 in my brain. I mean, you got to put Texas A&M up there, and then Alabama. Ever since the week 1 loss, has looked like a contender. And they've turned things around. Ty Simpson has really impressed me. And that should be him staying and him being patient is a rarity nowadays. Everyone's, I'm not playing, I'm leaving. And I mean, that's a testament. He seems ready. Even in their week 1 loss, I don't think, he didn't look atrocious by any stretch of the imagination. And I think his confidence has grown. He is able to overcome mistakes. It doesn't seem like he hangs his head on, he has a short-term memory, which is great for any athlete. Georgia, what a game. Georgia, Alabama last year, Georgia, Alabama this year. 2 incredible games. I think it's not your typical Kirby Smart team, but second half Georgia. And we saw it on display on this past Saturday night. And then, I mean, so Missouri, LSU, I'm interested to see what happens with LSU this weekend. And then Tennessee, also interested to see what happens with Tennessee this weekend. But Missouri was a team that I was very skeptical of just because of their strength of schedule before they played Alabama. Ahmad Hardy, incredible and so fun to watch. I have a very, I guess, kind of a distant family connection to ULM. So I'd heard about him last year, and then when he was transferring, I was like, okay, this kid's gonna be fun to watch in the SEC. They showed that they can hang in there. It was a home game, and then Oklahoma, they had a bad loss. They had that bad loss. What was John Mateer's health looking like? I mean, I want to see more from Missouri. I think Tennessee's too lopsided for me to include in my top 5, I think. Electric offense, defense. We'll see how they hold up Saturday.
Yeah.
I would say, which I'm also including, I think I'm at like 8 teams now. So this really wasn't what you were asking for. I think there's so much depth,
I'm glad
which
you're
has been
having
a
fun.
huge argument of, is the SEC really that deep? Yeah. Yeah. And if you look at, like you mentioned, the AP poll, I mean, half the AP poll is SEC teams, which
Right.
that's, there's, everyone has their own opinion on the AP poll and how that's configured. But I think Oklahoma's good despite what happened on Saturday. And then I like Missouri. I still like Missouri. I hope that they have, an off weekend this weekend. But I think with a healthy John Mateer, I think Oklahoma can beat, probably almost any team in the country as well.
Yeah, especially with the number 1 defense in not just in the SEC, but in college football. So
Right.
That's very interesting there. I like that. So that's good. I think my top 5 includes right now, in no particular order, Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M. I'm going to go with Oklahoma still. And then I'm going to go, I would say, so let me just think on it. Bama, I have A&M, I have Missouri, Ole Miss, and OU. I think Missouri's in there. Now, could they lose Saturday? Who knows? I don't know. They look, fingers crossed for Taylor, but they just look really good on both sides of the ball. And they proved that even though Bo Pribula had 2 turnovers versus Alabama, they still look good in that game. So
They did.
We'll see what happens. Really quick, and then we'll go to the preview and predictions and wrap up. Who's on upset alert in week 8? You can mention any game. Didn't have to be SEC, didn't have to be any conference. Who's on upset alert in your mind this weekend?
Maybe okay. The sentence coming out of my mouth sounds crazy. Vandy, like an LSU win over Vanderbilt.
Let's talk about that one.
and I think with the turnovers, and Diego Pavia did not play a great game when they went to Bryant-Denny Stadium. They were still in it. They were still in that game. But it's a different Vanderbilt. Everyone's heard that, time and time again since the season started. I don't know that anyone has as much confidence as Diego Pavia does, and props to him. I love it. And good for him, because it's working, and I think it's been contagious throughout that team and that program. But I think out of I don't know. I think the point spread's 2.5, maybe, or last time I looked, it might have changed by now.
Yeah, 2.5.
I think I would say LSU over Vandy, because they can't sneak up on anyone anymore.
Right.
Last year it was kind of like, oh, it's Vanderbilt, whatever. They're not a secret anymore. They're not a secret anymore. They started the season, they won, I think, 5-0 going into Bama, or 4-0.
5-0, yeah.
And then had a chance to win that game. Alabama started slow. It looked like the fifth quarter of last year's game, the first quarter of that game. I was like, there's no way this is about to happen again. But I think they can compete. I think LSU, they're not going to sneak up on LSU this weekend. I think LSU might pull off an upset over Vandy. Who would have thought those words would ever come out of anyone's mouth?
This is not me. Well, this is me calling them out, I guess. That is weird. Let me just put it that way, that Vandy is favored in this game. Usually. In what world? We live in a different world. I guess we're in the multiverse or something, right? Like we're in Marvel or something. That LSU is an underdog against Vanderbilt. That shows the testament right now of LSU's offense. Not defense. I'm not going to say anything about their defense. Their defense has been great, but their offense. That's terrifying to me. Going into I will say this. Nussmeier has a big confidence issue, and I'm seeing it right now. I saw it earlier when he spoke to reporters. Has a very big confidence issue right now. But then you look on the other side, and you see Diego Pavia. Oh, yeah, we lost to Alabama, but we still have our goals in front of us, going to the national championship. He still believes that that Vandy is going to go to the national championship. That's a problem. When it's LSU and then it's Vandy, that's a problem. So LSU needs to step up. And if they don't step up this weekend, I just already said it. I already said that the wake-up call with coaching is happening right now. I'll leave it at that. All right?
Fair.
I'll leave it at that. I think Georgia Tech is on upset alert against Duke. I'm going to use that one for an out-of-conference one for a second, for the ACC. I think Duke can bring it to Georgia Tech. If Georgia Tech does not come to play. They've been kind of wishy-washy, if that makes sense. Hot and cold this season. So if they don't come to play against Darian Benson, that Duke offense, that'll be an upset there. OU and South Carolina. What do you think about that one? I had somebody mention that to me on X the other day. OU will probably end up winning, but I don't know. That could go either way, you think, or no?
Yes. I think it's going to depend on how Oklahoma reacts after what happened last weekend in a bad loss. I think mentally you have to, like we were talking about earlier, you have to have short-term memory, whether it be from play to play or week to week. You can't hang your head or you're going to get punched in the mouth, because that's the nature of the conference. South Carolina, I can't remember what they were predicted to finish, which it's by the media, SEC Media Day, so it's not like you live and die on that.
Yeah.
But they were one of the teams heading into the season where it's, okay, watch out for South Carolina. What could South Carolina be? And then they've had some struggles. So I think it's going to depend on, is Oklahoma in a vulnerable state? Or are they going to come out angry? That is not the type of football that we play. We're embarrassed. and we're not losing again. What type of mental makeup does that team have? But I like Oklahoma in the game.
Yeah, I like OU too. I'm just worried about the health of John Mateer.
Yeah.
I think that's starting to
Well,
because the
the
Texas
fourth
game
quarter
was
versus Auburn, I think his completion percentage was better after he broke his thumb versus Auburn. I'm like, what is going on here?
So is that an?
But yes, valid concern.
It seems like everything is, and we're about to preview and predict our games, but it seems like everything is revolving back to
Yeah.
Auburn. Have you noticed that seems like everybody's revolving back, going full
Yeah.
circle to Auburn? In this episode, at least, I'm not saying because you're an Auburn alum or anything. I'm not saying
No,
that.
it is. That is
just,
why.
it just feels like everything's coming back to Auburn. It seems like, and I'm not joking. SEC officiating, the thumb, he had a better completion percentage against Auburn. It's like everything's just coming back to Auburn. So we'll see what happens with Auburn this weekend. We'll see who's on upset alert and who's going to have a better watch out this weekend or not. But let's preview and predict our games for Week 8. I know that these two games, you said you're going to be honest with me, and you were like, okay, I'll give it to you straight on them, which is fine. That's okay. These are some out-of-conference games for you, but Louisville at Miami, it's at least my first Pigskin Frenzy Friday game that we're doing. Louisville at Miami, I think Miami's favored by a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken, in that game. Who do you have really quick, and then we can move on?
I like Miami. I feel like I won't say every, but the past couple off seasons, is Miami back? Is Miami back? And then, is Miami back? Now, I mean, this is a team, and they're playing at home. It's a night game. Carson Beck has found himself in a better situation, or who knows what he would have looked like at Georgia this year, but it's working out. He left Georgia, and things are working out well for him. I like Miami at home.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good, honest pick right there. Keys for me for Louisville. Number one, you got to win the line of scrimmage battle, I believe. Number two, you got to protect the football. Those 2 turnovers versus Virginia were kind of iffy. So we'll just leave it at that there. You got to protect the football, especially against this Miami defense that's just come alive this year. And then protect Miller Moss. I mean, 5 sacks allowed versus Virginia. Miami's defensive line is going to try to get to Miller Moss. And they have been really physical up front this year. So got to figure out a way to protect Miller Moss in this game. And for Miami, I mean, minimize the penalties. 13 penalties for 114 yards versus Florida State. Dear Lord. I mean, you have to be a little bit more disciplined, especially in crucial ACC games as well, coming down the stretch. Win the line of scrimmage battle and then force turnovers versus Louisville. So who do I have in this game? Give me Miami. I think it's going to be closer. I think Louisville will actually cover in this game. I like Louisville a little bit better than most. I think that Louisville will find a way to cover, but Miami will win in the end. Give me Miami 34-31. That's the score I'm going to go with. Fingers crossed I get that one right on Friday night. But Miami 34, Louisville 31. USC at Notre Dame. Interesting game. Notre Dame's a 9.5-point favorite. That's kind of a weird, interesting spot, especially for USC. They're trying to get their defense still going. Notre Dame is trying to still come together a little bit, trying to hum and trying to keep on fulfilling their mission and trying to get to the college football playoff or back to the college football playoff, right? So interesting game in South Bend. Taylor, who do you have in this one?
I like the over. I'll tell you that much. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I like Notre Dame simply because I feel like there's more on the line. They have more at stake here. If they lose again, goodbye, they don't have a conference to win in order to, like you said, make it back to the college football playoff. And I think that should be enough motivation. That should be enough motivation in itself. But like I said, I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think both defenses are vulnerable and both offenses are going to put up points. I like Notre Dame. I love a home team. You may have seen this. I don't know. I heard it somewhere, but it's been floating around Twitter as well. Home teams this season, the win-loss record is something outrageous. So I'm always lean the home team a little bit, but because they already have 2 losses, then that's, they got to get it together now, or their hopes of making it back to the college football playoff are going to be no longer.
Hey, she picks Notre Dame, but It seems like you're kind of skeptical on it, just a tiny bit, a
Very.
little bit. Yeah. USC's keys for me are simple. Win on third down. I mean, 6 for 12 on third down versus Michigan. They're really good on third down this year. So if they can do that, they'll get it going. Establish the running game versus 220. They had 224 rushing yards versus Michigan. Notre Dame's 25th in rushing defense in college football. So if Notre Dame can kind of slow that down, that's good for them. But if USC gets going running the ball, I think they should be fine in this game. And then win line of scrimmage battle as well. Notre Dame's keys for simple for me, figure out a way to slow down their offense. I mean, USC is second in offense in college football, only behind, surprisingly, Texas Tech. That's a team that I've been high on all year. And forced turnovers, snagged 3 turnovers versus NC State. USC had 2 turnovers versus Michigan. So if you figure out a way to try to get some just USC to turn the ball over, that should be in the favor of the Irish in this game. And then finally establish the running game, 143 rushing yards versus NC State. And USC, surprisingly, is 29th in rushing defense in college football. They've been a little bit worse in previous years. So we'll see what happens overall in this game. Who do I have in this game? I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame will win. I think USC covers. I think a lot of people aren't giving USC enough credit on offense, and I think they show a little bit of that in South Bend. I think Notre Dame wins, but it's going to be probably by at least a touchdown, maybe. It's like 9.5, 10 points is the favorite for like the spread for Notre Dame. I'm going to go with Notre Dame 28, USC 21. A little bit of a lower.
Okay, lower scoring. I think
they're
going to air it out.
I think
expose the secondary.
I think so too, maybe, but I still think it will be just enough low scoring, at least like the high 20s. Let me just put it that way. Notre Dame 28, USC 21 in this game. SEC time, because I have 2 SEC games. Ole Miss at Georgia. That game is a little bit worrisome to me. I think Georgia's a 7.5 point favorite in this game, which to me a little bit high on the spread, just a tiny bit. But yet again, you look at how Ole Miss played last week, and then you look at the first half, for Georgia. It's kind of like, So, Taylor, who do you have in this game? What's your analysis? Just take it away. Floor is yours.
I like Georgia. If you go back and look at the last 4 games that Ole Miss has played and Trinidad Chambliss' 4 starts after the Austin Simmons injury, they've all been at home. Going to play at Georgia and that being your first true road start in the SEC, I think could be, it's not, if it was a night game, that would be a little bit more challenging, but I still think that that's going to be a challenge for, a first-year SEC quarterback. Georgia, prior to the loss to Alabama, had won 30. They don't lose often there. They had won 33 straight home games. So they're dominant typically on their home field. And then their halftime adjustments. If the game is close at halftime, I don't care if Georgia's trailing, but if the game is close, you saw it in both Alabama games. A couple weeks ago, and then last season, and then you saw it. I won't bring it up again, but this past weekend at Auburn, the halftime adjustments are phenomenal, and that's something that you'll hear coaches talk about the week leading up. I feel like every week this season they talk about they make adjustments on the fly so well defensively that, in my opinion, if you don't have a marginal lead over Georgia, they're going to figure out how to stop you, and their offense is going to get going. So if your offense starts to trip up, loses momentum, you have a couple 3 and outs, then you're probably in trouble. I thought I was iffy when Alabama went to Athens. Heading into the game, I wouldn't have been surprised by either outcome, but I think that Alabama is better than Ole Miss. I don't think that Ole Miss – I think that that'll be their first loss of the season.
Yeah, good pick. And I think a lot of people are feeling the same way. Do you think that before I go to my really quick, do you think that the spread's a little bit too high or no?
No, I don't think so. Because I think even if it's close in the first half, I think that Georgia will end up running – I don't want to say running away with it, but it was a little surprising to me, but I don't know that it's irrational.
Yeah, I got you. Ole Miss's keys for me are simple. They got to start off fast and try to put up a lot of points on the board quickly. That's just me. I think that I would take advantage of Georgia in the first half. If Georgia comes to play like they did in the first half against Auburn, I would take advantage of that. So that's number one for me. Number two is win on third down. 7 for 15 on third down versus Washington State. Not too bad. But if you just do a little bit better, and you'll probably find a way to win the ball game as well. And then win the line of scrimmage battle. You got to try to figure out a way to out physical Georgia. And I think that's going to be a task, but you still got to try to figure out a way to do it, right? Georgia, win the line of scrimmage battle, establish the running game. They only had 79 total rushing yards versus Auburn, and Ole Miss is 94th in rushing defense in college football. So what do you got to lose? Just hand the ball off, keep going, and keep humming on the ground, keep running the ball, and you'll be fine. And then win the time of possession battle. I think if you take Trinidad Chambliss on that offense off the field, Georgia's got it. And keep them on the bench as much as possible, then you're going to be fine. I like Georgia in this one. I think Ole Miss is going to cover. I think that it's not going to be 7 points. I think that Georgia will win. Give me Georgia probably 31-28. I think Ole Miss will play them close. I'm going to go really bold on that one. Georgia has had a thing with me, like proving me wrong. But we'll see. I think Georgia wins, but I think Ole Miss will cover a little bit. So give me Georgia 31, Ole Miss 28. Last but not least, the third Saturday of October, Tennessee at Alabama. It is an 8.5-point spread. Alabama is favored at home. 7:30 Eastern kick, 6:30 Central kick in Tuscaloosa. Going to be an interesting game. Taylor, who do you got, and what's your analysis on this one?
I like Alabama. After they beat Georgia and Missouri, they now, tied with Boise State, have the longest home game winning streak in college football. Tennessee hasn't beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa since 2003. They did. DeBoer's 0-1 at Alabama versus Tennessee. They had that tough loss to Field Storm last year in Knoxville. I think one thing that could be concerning is Jam Miller's status. He left the game with a concussion this past weekend, and earlier today on the SEC teleconference, Kalen DeBoer said that he will most likely be listed as questionable when the first availability report comes out tonight. So I think he obviously brings a lot to their offense. Even if they don't, utilize him a ton, he's a threat. Whether he's running the ball or not, you have to pay attention to him and you have to respect him when he's on the field. So I think that if he's out and ends up not playing, that is something to keep an eye on, in my opinion. But Alabama's wide receiver room, Jeremy Bernard, is a player that I love. Lottie Brooks, one of their young guys, has started to make a name for himself as well. Obviously, they have Ryan Williams. His production hasn't been quite as much as we saw last year, but they've got a lot of guys in that room, so they can spread the love. And I think that they'll be able to expose Tennessee's secondary, where Tennessee's defense might give Alabama's offense some trouble, is they lead the SEC in sacks. So can they protect Ty Simpson? I think what we mentioned earlier in terms of Ty Simpson having short-term memory, that will be beneficial if that ends up happening. I don't think he's, going to get rattled by that. He doesn't seem to get rattled easily at all. Both of Josh Heupel's wins over Alabama have come in Knoxville. He's yet to beat them in Tuscaloosa. And Alabama, they continue to impress me. I think after they beat Georgia, it's okay. Are they going to be too high from that win and then come home and get caught off guard by Vandy, which I'm like, why would anyone think that? We all saw what happened last year. And I know they didn't forget what happened last year. And then it's okay. You had an emotional win over Georgia and then weirdly an emotional win over Vandy. And then you go on the road. Okay. Are they going to, it's an 11 a.m. kickoff. Are they going to fall? Nope. So right now, I don't care who Alabama is playing. They, every week, have looked like a very, very, very elite football team. And I'm not going to pick against them until they give me a reason to. The team that ran out on the field week one is gone. Don't know those guys. It is a different team. They used that loss just about as well as anyone could. They used it as motivation. They didn't hang their heads, and they have looked dominant ever since. So I like Alabama, but we'll be keeping an eye on the Jam Miller situation.
Absolutely. See, great analysis and great pick there from Taylor Korn. Tennessee keys for me are simple. I mean, minimize the penalties, 10 penalties versus 78 yards versus Arkansas. Can't do that against this Alabama team. This is not last year's Alabama team. So just be more disciplined. That's all I got to say. Just be more disciplined. Pressure Ty Simpson, because you're right. They do lead the SEC in sacks. They're tied with OU as far as I know. And, for the lead in sacks, I believe. So you're right. So pressure Ty Simpson and try to beat out that offensive line. And then force as many 3-and-outs as you can, because Alabama is second in time of possession in the SEC. So try to force as many 3-and-outs as you can. Alabama's keys for me are simple. Slow down their running game. Tennessee had 264 total rushing yards versus Arkansas. Bama is 93rd in rushing defense in the sport of college football. So keep an eye out on that one. I think they need to try to slow down their running game. That's a big key there for me in this game. And then win the time of possession battle, 7th in college football overall, not just in 2nd in SEC, but they're 7th in college football overall, top 10 team in time of possession. So just run the clock, manage the clock, and you'll be fine in this game. And then force turnovers. Tennessee has only had 9 turnovers so far this season. So, which isn't, an outlandish stat, but it's not, not too awful, not too terrible, especially in week 8. So figure out a way to force turnovers in this ball game. So who do I have winning this game? I like Alabama winning this game. I honestly like them by double digits. Honestly, I think Bama's going to win probably 38-24. I think Alabama wins 38-24. I think they run away with it in the early fourth quarter, around there, and then Bama wins it. It's just the home team. Haven't beaten them in Tuscaloosa since 2003. That's a pretty good stat for me, too. I just think Bama's on a mission right now, and a lot of people are not paying attention to Alabama right now, especially on X. They're weird about Bama. Have you seen them look? I'm like, yeah, I've watched Alabama play many times, and they look like a top 5 team. So give me Alabama to beat Tennessee in this one. That just about does it. I mean, Taylor, any final thoughts before we wrap up heading into week 8?
Please say a prayer that Auburn can turn a corner. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's sad. It's sad. I want these players. The environment's always incredible. So it's going to be another sold out stadium on Saturday. It's another night game, a 6:45 kickoff. And I want these players to experience some joy because they haven't on a Saturday night in the past month. So I hope that they can figure it out. I hope that the offense can play a full 60 minutes of football, and then everything will just be better.
Listen, optimistic, very hopeful, but okay, fingers crossed. Please, please help us here, guys.
Cautiously optimistic, very cautiously.
Taylor Korn, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We are out of time. A big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch and listen to some college football coverage presented by us. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. Just share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram is at Pigskin_Frenzy, as well as the website www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Taylor Korn, keep on following her on X, Instagram, and whatever you can find her on social media, right? Just keep on following her. She does great in the sport, and round of applause for her coming on and being our Week 8 guest picker. We will be back Tuesday to recap Week 8 with daughter of NC State coach, or offensive line coach, Savannah Tujay, and we will have her on this coming Tuesday to recap the games, and we will have a great weekend. So, guys, we praise the Lord for giving us this platform to do this show. Praise Jesus, because without him, we wouldn't be in this industry. So we thank him, and we give him all the praise. And we are praying for you all, and we love you all. Guys, that's Taylor Korn. I'm Joel Norris. We're signing off. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the games. For everybody out there, please and always, stay the course.